Continuing on with the Fairway Bandits Disc Golf 101 series. This is a continuation of episode 4, part 2, discussing the question, what are the basic rules? So we just finished up with talking about the fairway. So let's talk about how you're going to mark your lie along that fairway. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. Most preferably would be to use a mini marker, which is just a smaller version of the large disc, or you can also use your thrown disc where it lies. And here's some examples of minis here. There's 3 of them to the left. You've got your small, medium, and large right next to your regular sized disc. And there are going to be pros and cons to the size of them, if you will. I prefer to have a smaller one that I can stick in my pocket. This one here on the end is kind of cool because it does double as a can cover, so you can use it to keep dirt and bugs and things out of your drink. The downside to it is that it doesn't actually meet the minimum size requirement for a mini by the PDGA regulations. Now, I don't know who's actually going to be out there measuring minis, but you just never know, so I guess I wouldn't use it. But you can pretty much use anything you want in casual rounds. So the other thing that we just talked about was your lie, and that is essentially the area where your thrown disc comes to rest. So this is going to be the place where you can put your foot for your next throw, and that area is a 20 by 30 centimeter rectangle, or roughly 8 by 12 inches, so about the same size as a sheet of paper, directly behind your thrown disc. Or if you choose to use your mini and you mark your front center of your disc, it would be directly behind your mini as well. Thanks to a good friend of mine who's actually taught me a lot about disc golf and some of the rules. Thank you, Casey. He did send me a link to this, which you can find on pdga.com or Disc Store, and I'll put the links to those down in the description below for a better view of that. Sometimes you'll see people flipping their disc to use as a marker, and although that gives you the same spot as your mini, by PDGA rules, you cannot move your thrown disc until it's been marked, so that wouldn't be okay. Now, there are a couple of things you want to be aware of when throwing off from the tee pad, OBs and Mandos. Out of bounds is going to be any area that is out of the field of play. In tournaments, it'll be clearly marked and probably written down on your sheets. As a general rule of thumb, though, parking lots, roads, walking paths, ponds, established creeks, things like that are going to always be out of bounds. But if there's just standing water from like a previous rain, like it is here, that would not be. If you do land in casual water, you can simply mark your lie in line but away from the target in the first dry, safe place. Another thing you want to consider is that the disc has to be completely surrounded by the OB area in order to be out of bounds. So in this case, there's still some disc in bounds, so it's not OB. This disc is completely surrounded by water, so therefore it would be considered out of bounds. And unfortunately, any out of bounds throw or missed Mando does get a 1-stroke penalty. Now here's an example of an inbounds disc that is questionable because it is touching the out of bounds, and one that is clearly out of bounds because it's completely surrounded by asphalt. Now when you do throw out of bounds, you'll mark your lie 1 meter in from where it was last inbounds, and that is done perpendicular to basically what you can kind of see as the out of bounds line. And a lot of people will just take 3 steps toe to heel to measure that out. Lay your mini down and you'll throw from there. The other thing you want to look for is a mandatory, and this is just going to be an object or an area that you have to throw the left or right of, or over or under, or something like that. You don't see a lot of overs, but I'm sure they're out there. In this particular case, you've got a tree marked with an arrow to the right. Again, I marked this just for example reasons, taking the left line out of it, making you throw down the middle. In some cases, you'll actually have, this is an example I used earlier where there were 3 lines to the target, where you have 2 Mandos, which is called the double Mando, taking both outside lines out, forcing you to throw that tight gap down the middle. And here's a double Mando at a local course that's permanently marked, and you can't see it, but there used to be a line across the top, so this would actually be a triple Mando where you had to throw below that line and between those 2 trees, so that you just had a tunnel shot into the woods. There's also holes that we call island holes, and that's where you have to throw off the tee pad and actually land on an island. This one, fortunately, isn't surrounded by water like some, but it's surrounded by concrete. So if you don't hit that island, you're actually out of bounds, and you will have to throw from the drop zone that you see here on the right. If there's not a designated drop zone, you typically just have to re-tee. So now that we've talked about your tee shot and some of the things to look out for off from the tee pad, let's talk about your next shot. And that's typically going to be an approach shot, an up shot, unless you've actually, thrown it close enough to be able to putt from there. But essentially an approach shot is just a throw from the fairway or even the rough, intending to land in the putting area. Because inside of that putting area is the ultimate prize, the target.
The chains.
The basket.
It's simply just the designated finishing object for that hole. In casual play, that can be pretty much anything, but in tournament play or an established disc golf course, it's going to be some variation of chain, pole, and basket that you see here. All right, so you've thrown your tee shot, your approach shot. Now it's time to make a putt. And the putting area is comprised of two circles. The first being circle 1, which has a radius of 10 meters or roughly 33 feet from the target. And then circle 2, which goes out to 20 meters, so runs from 33 to 66 feet outside of the target. There are particular rules for putting inside of circle 1. You do have to demonstrate control and balance behind your marker disc or your thrown disc when putting in this area. That rule does not apply to circle 2 or beyond, so when you're out there you can step putt or jump putt or whatever it is that you do to get a long putt to go into target. Well, there you have it. I hope you feel like you've got a good understanding of the basics of disc golf and how the game plays out. This is the 5th and final video of the 101 introductory series. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the second 5-part video series on choosing the right equipment. First video in that series is going to be answering the question, how do I choose the right discs?